One minute her voice was everywhere, then, without scandal or farewell, silence. Tonight we uncover the rise, disappearance, and quiet return of Karyn White. Let's set the scene. Picture a young girl in Los Angeles, regular kid, regular days, except when she sang. People turned their heads. That voice felt grown before she was. While her friends practiced cheer routines, Karyn White worried the shouting would rough up her chords, so she stepped off the squad to protect the one thing she couldn't risk losing. That's the kind of focus most people find in their 30s. She had it in high school. She chased sessions, grabbed any studio work she could, and started learning the grind from the inside. Early on, she got a shot singing behind the R&B band switch, thanks to drummer Jody Sims. She was invited to try out a new project with him called Legacy. For a minute, it looked perfect. Then she was told the group only needed one female lead, and it wouldn't be her. That kind of rejection can carve you up. But she took the hit, kept going, and filed it under fuel. There's a line performers cross when they stop waiting for luck and start building it. Karyn White crossed it at 17. She auditioned to tour as a background singer for O'Brien, a silky-voiced R&B act mentored by Don Cornelius, the towering figure who championed soul music on TV. The audition wasn't cute or friendly. It was a gauntlet. Multiple rounds, harsh lights, tough ears. She made it. Then the real education began. On the road, she learned how fame warps reality, how smiles can hide agendas, how being young and talented makes you a target. Later, she'd say she was too innocent to see some of it coming. But innocence doesn't last long on tour. She caught herself, set boundaries, and promised she'd never be that easy to push again. Here's where you see her business brain kick in. At 18, she wrote a song for Stephanie Mills, and when that check cleared, she didn't blow it on clothes or a car. She took the money and invested in herself, moving north to the Bay Area to cut a serious demo. During the day, she clocked in at an accounting office to keep the lights on. At night, she lived in the booth. Then the doors she'd been knocking on started to open. Jeff Lorber, a jazz keyboardist always hunting for fresh voices, brought her in to sing on his album. The track Facts of Love didn't just make noise, it charted. Suddenly, people in suits were paying attention. One of them was Benny Medina, a power exec with radar for stars. He basically said, "If this single keeps moving, expect a deal." It moved. The deal came. Now the stars line up. The label pairs Karyn White with a production squad that was still becoming the juggernaut we know today. Kenneth "Babyface" Edmonds, L.A. Reid, and Daryl Simmons. Imagine walking into that studio in the late 80s. In one room, Bobby Brown is carving a hook. Down the hall, Johnny Gill is stacking harmonies. The air feels electric, like anything you cut could go gold. Karyn White didn't just survive in that energy, she thrived. Her debut album hit like a wave. Sleek drums, bright keys, and a voice that could be both steel and silk in the same line. The Way You Love Me made the charts climb. Secret Rendezvous turned dance floors into runways. Love Saw It, a duet with Babyface, showed the softer, aching side. And then came the one that became legend, Superwoman. It wasn't just a ballad, it was a mirror. Women sang it to boyfriends, to husbands, to themselves. It traveled from bedrooms to beauty salons to late-night drives and stayed there for decades. Fame followed. Tours with Levert and Bobby Brown proved she wasn't just a studio beast. She could command a stage, stretch a note, and lock a crowd in the palm of her hand. 2 years flashed by like 2 months, and it was time to make the next statement. But the team that helped craft that first masterpiece had launched their own label, La Face, and were pouring focus into a new artist with a smoky alto named Toni Braxton. So Karyn White pivoted. If you can't get your original architects, you go find the best builders working. That's how she landed in Minneapolis with Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, the duo that had reimagined pop and R&B with polished muscle. Together they built Ritual of Love, a record that felt both grown and glamorous. Its crown jewel, Romantic, shot straight to the top and stamped her with a different kind of number one, not just R&B charts, full-on pop dominance. The moment was loud, bright, and unstoppable, but right when the spotlight looked warmest, life asked for a trade. In the studio, sparks became something else: love. Karyn White and Terry Lewis sparked a connection that leapt off the talkback mic. He was older, established, a father. She was fiercely driven and tender-hearted. They slipped off to Vegas, said their vows quietly, and started a life far from the noise. She moved to Minneapolis, leaned into home, and when their daughter Ashley was born, on Terry Lewis's birthday no less, the fairy tale seemed complete. We picture fame as a bottomless cup, but sometimes, after drinking and drinking, you just crave water. Karyn White had money, a mansion, help around the house, and for the first time, space. And that space started talking to her. Here's the part people misunderstand. Fans assumed a powerful husband or a cold label pushed her out. The truth is much messier, more human. After becoming a mother, Karyn White felt something shift. Confidence wobbled. Identity blurred. She wasn't the image the industry had marketed, the glamorous young star in sequins and heels. She was wiser, more grounded, curious about business and education. She talked openly later about wanting to go back to school, maybe even get a master's degree. But the machine doesn't like rewrites. Executives wanted the same Superwoman they already knew how to sell. When she showed up in sharp blazers instead of bodycon dresses, people in suits made snide comments like she looked like a Fortune 500 executive. Imagine the irony. A woman evolving is treated like a problem to fix. Still, she tried to give the industry one more record from the heart. The album that followed in the mid-1990s brought the old team back around: Babyface, Jimmy Jam, Terry Lewis, Benny Medina, with Karyn White stepping up in an even bigger way behind the boards. But while the music played, life fell out of rhythm. She doesn't spill every detail in interviews, and honestly, she doesn't owe us those details. But she's clear about the weight she was carrying. The label said, hit the road, promote, push. She looked at her baby, looked at her spirit, and said, no. That single decision, to choose her daughter and her mental health over momentum, cost her status in the machine. It also might have saved her. Years passed. Rumors grew. People pointed at Terry Lewis and whispered that he'd sidelined her. Karyn White shut that down. She called him a great husband and father and took responsibility for her choices. And yet, there's a difference between choosing to step back and finding yourself unable to move forward. The marriage ended in 1999. Devastated, she left Minneapolis for Sacramento. When grief meets silence, you can get lost in the echo. She tried on new roles: real estate investor, interior designer, and for a while, flipping houses gave her a kind of creative control she hadn't felt in years. Then life hit again. She lost her mother. Later, she lost her father. The two anchors who knew her before fame were gone, and the ground under her kept shifting. Depression doesn't care how many plaques you earned. It doesn't care how many people still sing your songs. It comes like a storm and dares you to find the light switch in the dark. Somewhere in that darkness, Karyn White decided she wasn't meant to be a ghost in her own story. Around 2007, she tried love again and married her best friend, producer Bobby G. They had good days, then they didn't. The marriage ended. The real estate market collapsed in 2008, and with it, the steady thing she'd built outside the booth. And still, there's a pattern with her. She turned toward the mic. Slowly, carefully. She produced a web series, acted in a small film, took meetings without hype or entourage. She linked up with Jay King, a veteran of R&B's business trenches, and started sketching a comeback that wasn't about chart math. It was about reclaiming her voice. In 2012, she dropped Carpe Diem on her own independent imprint. That move alone says everything. No big budget rollout, no megaphone from a major, just an artist saying, "These are my songs. This is who I am now." The press didn't crown it. She didn't ask them to. She built a lane where the speed limit was set by her spirit. Around that time, she also connected romantically with Al B. Sure, another voice from that late 80s/early 90s golden stretch. They didn't last, and that's all right. Sometimes reconnection is the point, two people who know the same storms, trading courage for a while. Then came a sharp, public sting. A major award show honored Babyface with a tribute. Perfect moment, right? The writer of Love saw it on one side, the voice who sang it on the other. Fans expected Karyn White to step out and own Superwoman for the generation that grew up on it. The arrangement started, the lights dropped, and it wasn't her. Another brilliant singer took the stage, and the performance was beautiful, but the omission hurt. Fans rushed to her inbox. "Are you okay? Why weren't you there? What's going on?" Karyn White answered with grace. She said no one had called her. No drama, no dragging, just a simple truth and a compliment to the artist who sang. That's a different kind of strength, the kind that doesn't feed on bitterness. Years later, she publicly wished Babyface a happy birthday. That's someone who picked healing over headlines. Today, the picture looks different, quieter, and stronger. Karyn White talks openly about financial independence and what she's teaching her daughter Ashley and her nieces. How to read a contract, how to invest, how not to let a paycheck decide your value. She launched a foundation centered on empowering women who want to build businesses, not just brands. She's sharpening her acting chops. She's choosing projects that align with her spirit. And when she sings now, you feel the miles in her voice, the wins, the losses, the grace. She once said, she has way more to offer now than she did at 22. You can hear it. The tone's deeper. The phrasing's wiser. There's a kind of hush around her delivery that says, "I know who I am." Let's talk about the choice that changed everything. Walking away when you're hot looks like madness from the outside. But grime under that shine is real. Imagine being told that the only version of you that sells is the one you've outgrown. Imagine welcoming a child and realizing your soul needs a softer room than a tour bus. People love a comeback story, but we rarely honor the pause that makes a comeback possible. Karyn White took that pause. She lost a marriage and, soon after, the two people who'd known her before the applause. She fell into depression. She climbed out one habit, one prayer, one small project at a time. No scandal to juice the press, no viral clip to hack the algorithm, just a woman rebuilding herself. And it's not like her skills faded. Talent doesn't evaporate, it waits. You can sense how much the industry missed when you hear fans talk about what her music meant. The way Superwoman turned living rooms into courage workshops. The way Secret Rendezvous made the night feel like a neon promise. The way Romantic flipped a switch and flooded the room with light. When she sings those songs now, it's not nostalgia, it's testimony. She's not trying to be the girl who cut those records. She's the woman who survived what came after. Along the way, she corrected a myth that stuck to her like lint, that Terry Lewis put her on the shelf. She said plainly, he didn't. He wanted her to be everything she wanted to be. That kind of honesty matters. It's easy to make a man the villain or the machine the monster and stop there. Her story is both harder and richer than that. It's about a woman who chose family and sanity in a business that often punishes women for doing exactly that. It's about someone who could have chased relevancy at any cost and didn't. There's also a lesson in what didn't happen. No giant PR campaign rolled out to welcome her back. No machine threw open the doors. She reinvested, learned new lanes, and started again. Think about that. When you've had number ones, that start again moment can feel like swallowing your pride. But Karyn White wasn't swallowing anything. She was speaking, in her own tempo, with her own pen, and paying for her own masters. We talk a lot about independence in music. She lived it quietly. If you're watching this and you're someone who once walked away from a dream, maybe for family, maybe for health, maybe because the dream you had at 20 didn't fit your life at 35, I want you to hear this. Coming back doesn't mean coming back to the same shape. The dream can grow up with you. That's what Karyn White models. She gave us the fire of her youth, and now she's giving us the warmth of her wisdom. Both matter. Both count. Let's circle back to that first question. What happened to the voice behind "I'm not your Superwoman"? Here's the simplest answer. Karyn White chose to be a superwoman in real life, just not the kind the industry could package. She became a mother, a businesswoman, a student of finance, a survivor of loss, and eventually an artist on her own terms. She didn't disappear. She transformed. And when the world was ready to listen again, she had more to say. Now, I want to hear from you. Do you think the music business makes enough room for artists, especially women, to evolve without penalty? Should we as fans celebrate not just chart wins but life wins, like stepping back to raise a child or going back to school? And which Karyn White track still hits you in the chest? Superwoman, Secret Rendezvous, Romantic, or Love Saw It with Babyface? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If this deep dive moved you, do me a favor. Hit like, share it with someone who loves classic R&B, and subscribe so you don't miss the next story we uncover. And to Karyn White, wherever you're watching from, thank you for the music. And thank you for the blueprint on walking away with grace and walking back with power.